All right, today we're going to be discussing the bass, just kind of basics, introduction to it. Okay, so to start off with, we have the different parts of the bass that we're going to learn. So we have body. This is the body of the bass. It's the largest part of the bass. This is where all the electronics are inside of, and the side that you are going to be plucking the strings. Next, we have our neck. This is where the strings go down, and what our frets are. We're going to learn about those in a second. And then we have our headstock, and this is where our tuners are connected and the strings reach their ends. Okay, so let's go ahead next and talk about the strings. You have 4 strings on a bass. Some basses have more strings, but 4 is the standard. The largest string is meant to be on the top, and the smallest string is meant to be on the bottom. So as you play and you move to smaller and smaller strings, your notes sound higher and higher as you go. Vice versa, you start going lower to thicker strings, your notes sound deeper and deeper. If we want to change the sound of the string when we pluck it, we have to actually change the length of the string. And so how we do that is we hold the string and we make it ring off of one of these frets instead of ringing all the way down to the end of the guitar. And when you reach this end right here, this is called the nut. And this is a part that you have to be somewhat careful with. I've seen people let their guitars fall on the ground, and this will crack in half, and then you have to replace it, which is no fun. So if I hold this big string right here, instead of ringing all the way from down here up to here, now the string is going to be ringing from here down to there. And that shorter length actually raises the sound that the string is producing, so it makes a higher note for us to hear. We have tuning machines right up here. These hold on to the strings, and if you twist kind of away from you, then you're going to be tightening the string. If you twist it back towards yourself, you're going to be loosening the string. And regardless if you have a left-handed instrument or a right-handed instrument, they will always be in that direction. And so meaning if they're over here, they actually flip the gearing of the tuners, so that way you still twist it away, that it still gets tighter. Now if you do have tuners on the bottom side, this can be a bit confusing for people when they first get an instrument, is you need to now twist towards yourself to tighten. Alright, now that we've looked at this part of the instrument, let's go ahead down here and let's look at and understand this part of the instrument. So we have what's called the bridge. The bridge holds onto the strings down in this section. We have pickups, and these are magnets with a little bit of wires around them, and they are able to detect moving metal. They can hear it, and so then they send that to your amp. Next, we have our knobs and our input jack. So input jack is where you plug in the instrument. Sometimes this will be underneath the instrument, or sometimes it'll be on the front. And then we have a couple knobs. So let's talk first volume knob. On this bass, I have 2 volume knobs. You're going to want to read the literature that comes with your instrument when you first get it. And so if I turn this off, this pickup's off. If I turn this one off, this pickup's now off. There'll be no sound that's actually going into the amp. But if I do this, now you can hear it. Next we have a tone. Tone knob is a very interesting thing. Basically, it's taking all of the crunchy, very high-end parts of your notes and getting rid of them, smoothing them out. So then, versus if I do this, you can hear this one's brighter when I turn up the tone. All right. Now that we've looked at the different parts of the instrument and we kind of understand how they work, next we want to understand how to actually make the instrument make sound. So let's start with our plucking hand. We're going to understand how this works. We're just going to go ahead and ring off of some zeros, meaning I'm not going to hold any frets or anything. And this typical hand shape for this is this thumb right here is going to rest on the top of one of your pickups. I really discourage putting your thumb like just up here and playing like this. Very inefficient. And so you want your thumb on the pickup, and now you're going to take these two fingers, and then you're going to make a pinching motion into your thumb with both fingers, and that's going to pluck the string. There are many different styles of plucking, and even this style that I showed you right here is not actually a complete description of how I play, but it's a great starting point. And so that's why I'm describing that and leaving it there and not going into all this extra detail, is because you need a good starting point. So go ahead and just practice playing like that, and then later on we can get into some more complicated playing techniques. Next up, we have our left hand, or if you are a left-handed guitar player, then it would be your right hand. And we just want to talk briefly about the form that this hand is supposed to have. Often when I see people start playing the instrument, you'll notice that their thumb is very visible over the top of the neck, and their fingers don't have a lot of room. If you're trying to like reach something and you just can't seem to get to it, it's probably because your hand is not in a good position. So we're going to drop our thumb down, and you're trying to get these knuckles out in front of the fretboard. So if I take my hand like this, you can see currently my knuckles are back. And then if I drop my thumb and bring out the hand, now my fingers can reach a very large distance. Okay, and then now as we're playing, we're trying to use our hand in as efficient as possible. And the more you play and the more hours you put into this, the more efficient your hand will get at playing around the instrument. So nowadays I don't play very hard at all. I don't need to make the sound come out of the instrument. So hopefully all of this has been helpful to you. I'm going to continue with some more introduction videos for guitar and bass, but this is just a starting point for understanding the instrument and getting yourself off the ground.